Bernie Sanders, you owe us money. Bernie Sanders, you're a cuck. You're spineless. You're nutless. You're heartless. You got no soul. You got no fight in you, kiddo. Left hook, right hook, man, you don't have what it takes. You can't bob and weave. You can't keep your head on a swivel. Why am I talking about Bernie Sanders? Well, because that nutless wonder managed to convince a lot of people, myself included, in 2016 and 2020 that he was going to be a hot brand, that he was going to fight. And I really thought that his campaign would be ready in 2020. After 2016, I figured, okay, it's quite clear that he has his pulse, that finger on the pulse, that he's ready, that he's energized. And at this time around, he was going to have a legal team ready. He was going to have dedicated fighters that be one step ahead of the DNC establishment. But no, turns out he knew he was being cheated. He knew that he was getting slapped around. He knew. He understood what was happening. So the reason why you're also getting a lot of text messages and emails or robo phone calls from the Democratic Party is because, remember, folks, we trusted somebody who we shouldn't have trusted. He gave that to the Democrat Party. But why am I talking about this? Well, because that nutless wonder admitted quite recently, Bernie Sanders admits he got cheated out of the 2020 election, which means if he's admitting that, he damn well knows he got cheated out of the 2016. Come on, folks.
Do you think that Kamala Harris is the best person to run against Donald Trump right now?
Ugh. Yeah, no.
Well, she is the person, and that
won't change probably, huh?
She'll be the Democratic candidate, and I've known Kamala for a number of years. Not best friends, but I've known her.
Mm-hmm.
She was in the Senate for a short period. She's very smart, and she's determined. I mean, above and beyond her views on the issues, which I, support most of them, not all. You got to give credit to somebody, a black woman, to move up the ladder. That ain't easy stuff. There's a lot of resistance to that, and she.
Identity politics. Listen, I get it. I understand identity politics is important to some people, but sooner or later, that tune is going to fall flat. You want to know the one thing that's going to matter? What's in your wallet? What's in your wallet? What kind of money you have? M-O-N-E-Y. Money to buy things, okay? The economy is the number one issue. And if the Democrats are running with this and the Republicans or Trump campaign is stupid enough to go along with it and start attacking her based on identity, then this entire election cycle is clearly going to go off the rails. It's going to be stupid. All the while, people are still struggling to make ends meet. The number one issue is the economy, folks. Let's rewind that again.
Issues, which I, support most of them, not all. You got to give credit to somebody, a black woman, to move up the ladder. That ain't easy stuff. There's a lot of resistance to that. And she's persistent. She's strong. And I respect that. And, I think she'll be a good candidate. I was interested that Trump apparently backed out of a debate with her on ABC. I wouldn't, I have debated her, as a matter of fact. She's tough.
She's tough. Was there a chance that you were going to get that nomination?
He debated her. She's tough. Say that again, Bernie. Because the person who gave the killing blow to Kamala was Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard defeated Kamala Harris. You're saying she's tough. She got destroyed in not one, but two primary debates by Tulsi Gabbard. You're not even acknowledging that. Bernie, she wasn't tough. She didn't even last. She didn't go all the way to the first prime. Marianne Williamson lasted longer than Kamala Harris. Marianne Williamson in 2020, her campaign lasted longer than Kamala Harris. What does that tell you about Kamala? Kamala the cop? Kamala Mamalo? Say that again, Bernie.
And I respect that. And, I think she'll be a good candidate. I was interested that Trump apparently backed out of a debate with her on ABC. I wouldn't, I have debated her, as a matter of fact. She's tough.
She's tough. Was there a chance that you were going to get that nominate, or as an independent, can you get been plotted with the Democratic Party and put in? Was there even a call about it or anything?
No. I ran in 16. I ran against Hillary Clinton. And I ran in 20.
Yeah, I remember. And I felt like you didn't get treated fairly, to be honest
Well, I
with
didn't. And that's what happens when you take on the establishment. So
Yeah.
what happened is we won the first 3 primaries, and then the establishment got very, very nervous, and there were a whole lot of candidates in the Democratic primary. And they said, hey, it'd be a good idea if you all dropped out, let Joe Biden be the one candidate. People rallied around him.
And do they call? Is there a call that you get, and it's like you're not going to move forward? Is it just like news articles? Like how does the
I'll tell you what happened. Here's what happened, folks. Here's what happened. Ring, 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 ring. Hello, this is Bernie. This is Barack Obama. Bernie, if you keep on going in this, we're gonna decimate you. The phone call happened. He admits the phone call. The Barack Obama phone call, where I called up Klobuchar, told her to put the comb down. Where I called up Pete Buttigieg, Judge. It said, Pete Buttigieg, put the booty down. That's what happened. He's admitting it now. I know all of you are furious. I'm furious too. Folks, I think we need to start knocking on Bernie's door. Bernie, give us our money back, you hack fraud. This man is admitting it right now, how the whole thing happens. After so many years of dismissing it, he is now saying, first and foremost, this is what happened.
I ran in 16. I ran against Hillary Clinton. And I ran in 20.
Yeah, I remember. And I felt like you didn't get treated fairly, to be honest with you.
And that's what happens when you take on the establishment. So
Yeah.
what happened is we won the first 3 primaries, and then the establishment got very, very nervous, and there were a whole lot of candidates in the Democratic primary. And they said, hey, it'd be a good idea if you all dropped out, let Joe Biden be the one candidate. People rallied around him.
And do they call? Is there a call that you get, and it's like you're not going to move forward? Is it just like news articles? Like how does the establishment
what happens
work?
is I won the popular vote in Iowa. I won the New Hampshire primary. I won the Nevada primary, and those were the first 3. And then front pages of the New York Times, Democratic establishment very nervous. Bernie Sanders could win the whole. We were doing very well in the polls. And, I think behind the scenes, people thought, there were like 15 different candidates. And they were splitting up the vote. And that's how I was not necessarily getting over 50%. I was getting more than other people.
You were in the lead, Bernie. You had it. And when it was time for you to boot up and nut up and ready to go, you did a weak pullout game. That's all. Okay? You got soft. You got flaccid. You couldn't handle it. You couldn't handle it being the big dog. You couldn't handle fighting. Couldn't handle bending over the establishment. You couldn't do it. You couldn't finish. You couldn't perform, okay? Now, is this crude language? Absolutely. But you know what? I don't have to be polite to Bernie. He was winning in 2020. He had it. We all saw it. We all saw it, and he didn't tell us to fight. He chose not to fight. He chose to puss out. That's what Bernie Sanders did to all of us. He chose to be a coward and run away.
So I was on the way to victory. And they said, look, Bernie shouldn't be the candidate for a variety of reasons. We don't want him the candidate. Drop out. And then on one day, one or 2 days, a lot of people dropped out. It was Joe Biden and me, and Joe had a lot of support, and all these people came behind him, and that's what happened. Let me also say, having said that, Biden is a friend of mine. I think he has done a very good job over the last 3.5 years, and I'm working very hard to see that Kamala is elected our next president.
Yes, because he's all in for Kamala. Kamala, Mamala. Oh my goodness gracious Cretaceous. That's what Bernie Sanders is doing. Wasted our time. Wasted our efforts. Wasted so much because he chose not to fight. I have never been more disappointed in a candidate. I wasted my time talking to this man. I wasted my time supporting him, and whatever kind words I've ever said about him, I regret it. I regret it forever because that man has proven to me that he is a waste of time, effort, and energy. That's truly what he is. A waste of time. He's admitting now, after so long, 5 years ago, almost going to be 5 years. Well, 4 years to be more precise. But even then, longer than that. If he's admitting that happened in 2020, can you imagine what happened in 2016, what Bernie Sanders really knows? The amount of time wasted. I'll never forget the DNC convention. I'll never forget what happened there. We were there, myself and Daniel. We saw what happened to Bernie Sanders supporters and Bernie Sanders delegates. We saw what happened to the volunteers. All their stories were the same. Stories of harassment, being doxxed, being assaulted, being stalked. Strange phone calls in the middle of the night. Knocks on the door. People being physically assaulted. Their stories were all the same, these Bernie Sanders delegates, these volunteers, these supporters. And what did Bernie Sanders say? Nothing. 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 He just yawned, he sighed, and said, we got to stop Trump. Because that's the only thing Bernie Sanders cares about, stopping Trump. Donald Trump is his end-all, be-all threat. He doesn't care about what workers are going through. He doesn't care about what his volunteers and supporters went through. Can you imagine the amount of effort so many volunteers put into Bernie Sanders' campaign, not only in 2016, but in 2020? Knocking on doors, canvassing, doing calls, doing live events, attending rallies, supporting him. Can you imagine the time that was wasted on this one man, Bernie Sanders? He has admitted to the whole world now that this is how the system is run, that it was rigged. So 2016, DNC worked in favor for Bernie DNC worked in favor for Hillary Clinton to be the nominee and for Bernie to be cheated. Sorry about that. Again, Bernie Sanders, you really know how to get people angry. Number two, don't forget what happened in 2020. And he has the audacity to say that Kamala Harris is a strong debater. I saw that debate was Tulsi Gabbard and Kamala. Bernie, were you paying attention or were you sniffing Biden's diaper as you were ready to cuck out? Because I think we all saw a whole other different Kamala than the one you saw. She's not tough. If she was so tough, why did her campaign go bankrupt and belly up? Why did it start off with a bang and ended like a fart in the wind? That's what happened to Kamala's campaign in 2020. She's not tough. And what accomplishments does Kamala Harris have? Nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. It's not there. It's non-existent. Gone. Bernie, you've been a source of constant disappointment, but at least I'll give you credit for this. You told the truth. You're telling the truth of what happened, that you were cheated. I think maybe you owe an apology to your supporters, to your volunteers, to your delegates, to the people who stood up for you, who fought for you, who were in the fight more than you ever were because your heart was never in it. Never again should we ever be tricked. And by the way, folks, the DNC convention will be here in Chicago. And Bernie, being the nutless wonder that he is also, my friends, also going to be here too, holding a progressive rally. A progressive rally that's supposed to bring in progressive policy issues to the Democratic Party so they can implement them. You had about 4 years under Biden and you couldn't get it done? Explain to me, why are we wasting our time on you, Bernie? Why are you still out there wasting all of our time? He never had heart. And that's the real truth of it.
If you fool me once, it's because I didn't think a guard was needed. If you fool me twice, it's because I didn't learn the lesson, so it bears repeating. If you try the same play 3 times running, it's because you know what's coming, and you didn't come to lead, you came to purposefully be misleading. Democracy is dry. It's been a century bleeding. The husk is gaping open to the sky, out in the field where all the sheep just keep on circling and worrying and bleeding. They're waiting for the shepherd that they've tried to hide their faith in, but he's so appealing. They'd gladly give their fleece. It's such a freeing feeling that even when he leads them to the ledge and starts to urge them on, they're positively beaming. They were told that they were on their way to save democracy, so even as they plummet, they just gloat. They don't consider screaming. And halfway up the cliff, the shepherd's cozy little mittens wrap around the staff of shattered human hopes on which he's leaning. He shows the gentle grin that used to stir your inner spark, and he says, "Not me, us," as he gestures to the oligarchs. He knows that if he runs, they're going to stop him like a stolen car. And he'll easily surrender because it bought a lot of time for laying mines in all the grassroots. Suddenly, the tiniest of movements gets you blown apart. Suddenly, you're in a play that's set on an election day and voting for the fire, unaware you're playing Joan of Arc. Suddenly, the shepherd pulls the rug and slips a hood across your clueless mug, and everything goes zero dark. I'm gonna warn you once more before it's 2024 and you fuck around and find out who your heroes are. To take a step back from the herd, and you'll learn that you can spot who all the shearers are. If you really want to know the product that they're selling, I can take you where the mirrors are. If you think your voice is finally ready, I can tell you where the lyrics are. I hid them in a box I had to bury neath the cobble when they carpet bombed the promenade and raided all the street bazaars. Now all we've got's the marketplace, and you're too broke to even bother asking what the options for your treatment are. Suddenly, the raw debris of homeless human dignity will find it has 100 teeth for every badge and sweeper's arm. Suddenly, they speak in solidarity and each is armed. Suddenly, the sheep can see the shepherd for his truest form and all pitch in at once to help him buy the farm. And now it's zero dark, and all is calm and peaceful save the distant wail of sirens that approach beside the flames of dawn. Suddenly, the carrot's just a string that's on a stick, and all your movements make you sick because the prize is gone. Now, we could go and flee into the forest low and meek, or we can exercise our right to feast and go and graze on Biden's lawn. Because he's been sowing seeds that seep a toxin out to sap a bit from each of us and keep on leeching decades after Biden's gone. So regardless who they summon out of hell to come and do the job, it will not feel like Biden's gone. But in that time of hopelessness, you cannot trust the shepherd when he once again comes asking you to humor him his siren song. And it's cute that you can innocently, honestly assume that's just a symptom of a system that was wired wrong, and not the standard feature, basic function, primary objective of a mass hypnosis firebomb. You don't need to know the words to cry along. Someday it'll hit you like an officer who pistol whipped their ride along. Broke his jaw and kept his job and kept it moving right along. That voting isn't red or blue or black or white or right or wrong. Voting's like a firing squad where you can choose the firearm. It's slow extinction by and large. It's Super Tuesday supercharged. It's all your futures, roots and all, just tossed out on a garbage barge. It's everybody dropping out to push the biggest oligarch. It's everybody voting fire, registered as Joan of Arc.